just listen to the nice music and just settle down for a minute before we start. Good morning.
I am so happy to be with you.
Oh, yes, I'm here. So we're here today to read The Way of the Bodhisattva. And we're on meditative concentration. A little bit of the way in. It's a very long chapter with, let's say, 187 verses. And we're on verse 36 today.
Before we jump in, I have a question that is potentially tricky, but just as a way of starting us out, we've been really doing this for a long time now. I mean, we're on one of the later chapters. You know, there's not a whole lot left, and we've got a handbook written for us by Shantideva, I think in the 1400s, and it's a handbook. I would characterize it as a handbook for bodhisattvas, like he was. So my question is, how would we recognize a bodhisattva if we were walking down the street?
I'd say we probably wouldn't. Most people wouldn't recognize a bodhisattva. And this is just my answer. I feel like most people wouldn't recognize a bodhisattva because, first of all, most people aren't looking for a bodhisattva. And I had this kind of insight, let's say, the other day. And really, we see what you could say we see what we want to see, or we see what we are. And not really what we are, but we see what we believe we are. Sometimes we see what we are. So if we see what we are, everyone's a bodhisattva. Really. But if people are believing that they're not, they won't behave like a bodhisattva. So, we might like to think, oh yeah, we'd recognize a bodhisattva if they're smiling and if they're glowing and if they're being very kind to someone. Like, oh, that's so nice. I'm going to keep my eyes open for a bodhisattva. But I don't think that's the case, because you might see someone smiling and even being of service, seemingly being of service. And we might think they're a bodhisattva. But really, we don't know. We can't really evaluate or judge anybody else. You can maybe recognize, and even, I was going to say, maybe you could recognize if bodhisattva nature is coming through you, but you're not going to be all like, I'm a bodhisattva. And I suppose like a bodhisattva is someone who is really empty of a me, empty of the idea of being separate, and they're here in service to, I feel like saying maybe because we're reading this text, but like in service to the Buddha, so, and the Buddha being not a single person, but the Buddha being a word for everything that is. So when you're empty of a me, you're one with Buddha nature. And then naturally you're in service to what is. And that service is however Buddha chooses to be of service through that body. And it could be anything. It could be something that we perceive as service, or it might be just smiling at somebody in a day, or like it could be anything, you know. But I think it's a very natural thing of Buddha nature to be in service to itself. But if we're trying to be of service, I think that's also okay, and it's a beautiful thing in the world, and I think it's very valid, and we should also, if we have that urge to try to be of service, to do that. But that's not real. That's not like a bodhisattva. That's a person being of service. And I wouldn't belittle it. I think the world needs that also. But like true service really is not knowing what to do and just letting yourself be guided and seeing what service comes through you. And I mean, somebody else might give a better answer that you could recognize a bodhisattva, but if I might think someone is a bodhisattva and then they might be or they might not be. Or I might feel like I do feel like if you were in the presence of somebody for more than a moment, like for a long time, let's say, then you might recognize a bodhisattva in the way that they're probably going to be very kind and understanding and like compassionate really and empathic towards whatever comes into their world. I don't think they're going to be like uh kind of doing like they're not going to be like shouting at dogs to get away from them, because they don't like them. Street dogs or street cats not going to be like shouting at them, pushing them away. They'd be kind of bringing them in and petting them or being, well, maybe not necessarily. It depends on the situation. Like maybe it's not good to do that in some certain environment. So we don't really know. But if we're in the same environment and we kind of understand what's going on, you would recognize someone for just their kind, gentle, loving nature. And of course, they might have a moment where they're not like that also, but like the majority of the time they would be. But generally, I don't think you'd really recognize someone just like walking down the street in your local supermarket or something, except if you yourself are in that Buddha nature as well, then you wouldn't really be thinking it, but like you might be drawn towards someone of the same, that's kind of resonating at the same level, and you might just have a nice kind of warm feeling towards them, or you might be just kind of attracted. And even if you're not kind of in that, you could just be attracted towards people. But I'm not really so into, evaluating people and thinking are they or are they not. And at least here, every mind is different and every being is different. But here, that doesn't lead to a sense of peace. And I think it does kind of happen in spirituality, where like we want to know who's more enlightened than someone else, or who's like, yeah, this person, they're definitely like a bodhisattva, or they're definitely like they're completely enlightened. Like we like to hear those kind of things. But I think when we get into that, we're totally missing the point, and we're moving away from our own spiritual work, so to say, because Buddha nature doesn't differentiate and doesn't distinguish and doesn't break up things. It just says that really Buddha nature is all there is, truly. And then anything seeming else is just a kind of a falsity. And one who's, let's say, I don't know about these words, but one who's more established in the Buddha nature and more familiar with being there, they're not going to meet someone and then judge them for maybe believing something. Maybe it's obvious also to them that they're believing something, but there's not going to be a judgment about that because it's not who they truly are. And the one who's established in Buddha nature will be seeing the Buddha nature in them and really trying to encourage that to come out of the person. Maybe not in a mindy way trying to make it come out, but just naturally. And that's kind of a bodhisattva as well, like one who naturally kind of draws out the Buddha nature in life.
Mm, beautiful.
Yeah.
One of the things that, and we should jump into the text in a moment, but
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to sort of emphasize one of the points you were making earlier about, or at least you sort of pointed to it, was the disidentification with body mind,
Mm-hmm.
and how, well, Shantideva really in almost every chapter he talks about, that we're giving this thing up, this
Mm-hmm.
physical form. It's
Yeah.
definitely, you've only borrowed it for a short time, and I'm of
Mm-hmm.
course paraphrasing there.
Yeah.
um, and so, it makes sense to think that I'm, using a body mind, looking around at other
Mm-hmm.
body minds.
Yeah.
I'm not likely to be able to point out, oh,
Mm.
there's one, there's one, there's one.
Yeah. I think that's also quite misunderstood as a, like to give up the body mind. Because then when we're trying to do that, from the body mind perspective, like we think we have to, um, I don't know the word, but like disregard things of the body mind world. But that's not really it. It's more that we're like just not identified it with it so deeply. Like it's not, um, like who we are is not kind of clinging onto it and stuck, so really then you can really be in the body mind really fully and actually enjoy. You can enjoy, you might just enjoy the feeling of the breeze like blowing in your hair or something,
Oh,
and it's like,
thanks.
oh, sorry.
Can I use my skin? Can I just
Yeah,
feel it
yeah.
against my skin? Okay, thanks.
So you might really enjoy the feeling of the breeze on your skin. And that's not, so if when we're um misinterpreting the text, if it's like, oh no, I shouldn't enjoy like this because this is the body. And like, no, I'm letting go of the body now. Because I'm too spiritual for the body. But really it's not that. It's like you actually enjoy the body and the world much more fully, really, because I guess it's not only this. It's not like just limited to this. It's like, yeah, like everything is one and allowed to flow more freely, and it's not like stuck on one thing. And also, even when the breeze is beautiful, like I don't need it to continue. Like just it's just like right now. It's just like, oh, the breeze, it's good. And then the next minute, maybe there's a fire. Oh. And then that's also okay. Even that reaction, like, oh, it's just like the way, literally the way the wind blows.
Mm,
It's not saying I don't want to blow this way, I don't want to blow this way. It just goes like easy.
mm.
So like that. Yeah. So I just
With
think disidentification, like it's misunderstood by the mind. Like, and
mm,
maybe all of these things, we try to understand them with our mind. I think it's good to not really try to understand spiritual texts at all. But I do think it's good to be exposed to them. And I think it's good to, if we can, like to allow them to come in and just allow even the words to just flow through us. And if understanding happens, let it happen. And if understanding doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. And if understanding does happen, also don't try to grasp it. Because I feel like those ideas from spiritual texts, they come again at the right time. And maybe they come with an understanding. So maybe we'll read a few verses today, and maybe whoever's listening and also us, maybe we don't understand anything, but then maybe tomorrow we're walking down the street and those words arise in our heart with the understanding purely because we've been exposed to those words. It's like, oh, so we really don't, and trying to understand it's just, it doesn't help. It just kind of tenses up our being, and we have to let go of that eventually to understand anything. So you might as well just let go of it from the very beginning.
mhm. So, to paraphrase just slightly, what we're trying to do
Yeah.
is cultivate an understanding rather
Hmm.
than grasp or hang on to it. I love the
Yeah.
thought of planting a seed and having it flower some other time.
Yeah, that's good. It's just kind of you're allowing it to happen.
Mm,
Yeah, because you can't, yeah, if you don't give a seed what it needs, then there's no chance that it's going to germinate, isn't it? Like if you keep your little seed in a little envelope in a dark place, it's not going to grow. But if you give it what it needs, like you put it in the ground, in the soil, give it some water, maybe some sunlight, then there's much more chance that it's going to germinate. I don't know. I'm not a gardener, so I don't know if every seed even does germinate or not, but at least you're giving it the potential. So exposing ourselves to spiritual texts like this is one possible way. I don't think it's the only way. I think, we can also just be. Just be and do nothing is also quite a good way. So shall we read?
Sure.
So I feel like starting to read, is that okay?
Okay.
Verse 36. Then there will be no one standing by in tears and mourning, thus to trouble me, and no one will be there distracting me from thinking of the Buddha and the practice. Therefore, in these lovely gleaming woods, with joy that's marred by few concerns, where mental wandering will cease, I will remain in blissful solitude. Relinquishing all other aspirations, focusing myself on one intent alone, I'll strive to still my mind, and calming it to bring it to subjection. In this and in the worlds to come, desire's the parent of all woe, and in this world, killing, bonds, and wounds, and in the next, the hells and other pains. You send your go-betweens, both boy and maid, with many invitations for the prize, avoiding in the quest no sin, no deed that brings an ill renown, nor acts of frightful risk, nor loss and ruin of possessions, all for pleasure and the perfect bliss, that utmost penetrating kiss, of what in truth is nothing but a heap of bones, devoid of self, without autonomy. Is this the only object of desire and lust, sooner pass beyond all suffering and grief? What pains you went to just lift her face that modestly looked down, which, looked upon or not before, was always with a veil concealed. That face for which you languished so, well, here it is, now nakedly exposed. The vultures have uncovered it for you to see. What's this? You run away so soon? That which once you jealously protected, shielded from the eyes of other men. Why, miser that you are, don't you protect it, now that it's the food of graveyard birds? Look, this mass of human flesh is now the fare of carrion beasts, and you would deck with garlands, sandalwood, and jewels, the food and provender of others. Is this like if it, what's coming to mind is like it's a funeral. It's a funeral of like a dead body. And like it's like, yeah, it's someone who you once desired, like a woman who you once desired, and now like the veil can be lifted. And like it's just like it's nothing. Like you spent so long like desiring and maybe you had it, but like in the end it's like just suffering really.
Yeah, like the object of this, a
Mm.
body, or really any desirable thing is
Yeah.
you just basically just material.
Yeah. Look
We
again. Oh,
just to back up slightly to
yeah.
set context here, he's suggesting we go into the woods. We go into nature,
Mm.
from the earlier verses in this chapter to,
Yeah.
find some solitude and really
Mm.
perfect, if you will, or practice concentration.
Mm. Yeah. Like leave everything. And for us, that's like to leave our, it could be leave our desire for everything, leave our interest for everything. We don't have to leave everything. We don't have to go to the forest. In those days, maybe they did, but maybe in our life, it's not suitable. Maybe we have a family and we can't leave, but for moments in the day, like we can choose a few moments every day, and maybe those moments, because we find such peace, maybe those moments will increase. But we could start with like 2 minutes. It's like, okay, for 2 minutes a time in the day that suits. It's like, okay, I'm going to leave everything. So I'll just go into my room, turn off my phone, make sure I won't be disturbed, and I'm leaving everything. Shut your eyes. Everything's gone. Like everything's just an idea. So here I am now in the solitude of my heart. So we can all do that. We don't have to leave our families, our jobs, our everything. And then, we can come back then to everything. That's what we have the luxury of that. If we want to, we can come back to everything again for as long as that desire is there. We're not pushed. God is very gentle and kind, and He won't take all our desires away until we're ready to give them up. So we can give them up slowly. We don't have to rush, because maybe we'll get very scared. But also we should challenge ourselves a little bit and not keep ourselves too comfortable.
Mm.
So we can challenge ourselves just that way. It's like, okay, yesterday or for a week now, I've been leaving everything for 2 minutes. Maybe I'll challenge myself for like 5 minutes now, or whatever feels like a little bit of a challenge. Or maybe when those 2 minutes or 5 minutes are over, I'll try to move about in the day without picking everything back up again. So it's not that we have to have our eyes closed and not be looking upon the world. We can move and be in the world and still not be grasping onto things. And that's all it really means to give up things, is that we're not grasping. We're not holding on to it. We don't need it, because we're very much in touch with that solitude in our heart simultaneously. So then it's like, okay, we're feeling and experiencing that. And it's a beautiful solitude. It's really like an all-inclusive solitude. That's not solitude at all. But like it's right here, and we can be aware of that and move throughout the world. So maybe that can be a challenge, but we should take the challenge and not be like, it's very easy to just, keep grasping onto things. And even you could say it's easy to suffer, even though we don't like it. It's easy because we're used to it. Like a thought came to me the other day. I thought it was a really nice thought. And then it was, I think there was some feeling here or something, some kind of sense of, oh, something that didn't
Mm.
feel good.
Mm.
And then this thought arose, and it was from, I don't know if you've watched that TV program, The Chosen, about Jesus,
Mm.
the life of Jesus.
Mm.
It's really good. Anyway, it's like all the stories are from the Gospels of Jesus. And there is a story where Jesus goes to a man who has been paralyzed, or I don't know if paralyzed right words. Anyway, he couldn't walk, and he's been living a kind of a healing. It's supposed to be like a healing fountain called Bethesda, and he's been living there for like 30, 40 years, like very long time. And he's kind of wanting healing, but he's never getting it. It's like it's kind of based on magical thinking, like that if you get in here at a certain time, like the angels will come and you'll be healed. And he'd given up altogether even going in, because he couldn't get there because everyone was just jumping over him and all. He wasn't able to move fast. So Jesus went to him and says, like, pick up your mat and walk. I think, like he said, maybe a few other things first, but this is the thought that came to me. Pick up your mat and walk, or pick up your mat and leave now. And I felt like, whoa, that's like, it came to me like it just, like for me, is that like I can pick up my mat and walk anytime I want. And what that means for us is that, like, to have the faith to leave this suffering, like we can leave our suffering at any time and have the faith and to walk really means to recognize that God is here. And that's the faith, so the faith that God is here, like regardless of that. So I can leave that anytime I want. That's what it meant to me. Like, so pick up your mat and leave. And anytime we can do that. And in a way, if we stay with our suffering, that's not really having faith. It's not having faith in God, or that God is here, because to hold on to suffering, it's kind of fear, isn't it? It's like you're actually holding on to it, and like I need this for some reason. And maybe we don't question it, because if we really questioned it, we'd see through the absurdity of it. Like, it doesn't make sense at all. We're suffering it, but yet we're still holding on to it so tightly. So yeah. So I just think it's a very beautiful. So we're bringing Jesus into the story of Buddha now, but they all overlap, and in a different time, people could have called Jesus a Buddha, but they didn't. maybe because of what country he was in. You know, maybe if he had been in India around Buddhists, they would have said, like, this man is the Buddha. They're just different words. They're all the same, you know, and all, I don't know about all the different religions. And I'm sure people who are very religious would argue with me. But I feel at the root of all religions is, you know, it doesn't matter what word you use, but it's, you know, Buddha, nature, God, whatever the name is for your God, like whatever, whoever is the essence of that, you know. Of course, maybe they had a different body, but their essence is the same, and also ours is also the same. And the only thing they're saying, everything that they say is a message for us, you know, like, so pick up your mat and walk. Like, we can all take that. And probably any words that Jesus spoke, or any words that Buddha spoke, or any words that any of the religious, like, prophets and saints, any words that they spoke weren't only for them, you know, and it wasn't only for the people that they were speaking to. And that's why the stories continue. If it was only for them, then it would have stopped right there. You know, why share that story even? You know, it's for us as well. It's for, like, us for forever. Forever, at any time. Any time there's time, those words are for us and we can take them. And again, that's why it's good to expose ourselves to spiritual texts as well. Because maybe if we're lucky, some of those words will reach our heart. And maybe it's enough. Maybe it can be enough for just one of the words to reach and to really reach and really get us. So we won't sit down in our suffering again. Or like the man, like he did. He just got up and walked off. He hadn't walked for like 40 years or something like that. And he just walked. So it's a good story, and we can do that anytime. And even if we have to do it again and again and again, that's okay.
Well, I'm not gonna get up and walk off right now,
No.
but there's
We
but
don't need
there's
to
some
walk away from this.
but there's something coming across that's touching me right
Yeah,
now. So
yeah. So this is like the faith, and this is the heart, and this is what we're walking into, you know. So we're walking into love and into peace and into, like, compassion. And the compassion is for anything, you know, like ourselves. We're not apart anymore, but anything that might appear in ourselves or in our world, you know, it's all the same. So when we're in this space of faith, and like, it's not like like, faith is a kind of a misunderstood word as well, because faith is really a knowing. Faith is like a knowing, you know that God is here, because you can't have, like, blind faith. Blind faith is not faith at all. Blind faith is belief, you know, and beliefs lead to stress, and beliefs lead to suffering. And that's what the call is for. It really is to give up our beliefs.
beautiful.
Mhm. So where are we now?
30, no, we're in the 40s.
Yeah. So I might read this one verse again.
Okay.
Look again, this heap of bones, inert and dead. Why? What are you so scared of? Why did you not fear it when it walked around, just like a risen corpse propelled by some strange influence? You loved it once when clothed and draped it was. Well, now it's naked. Why do you not want it? Ah, you say your need is no more there. But why did you embrace it, all bedecked and covered? From food, a single source, come equally, the body's filth and nectar of the mouth. So why are you delighted by saliva, and yet repelled by excrement? Very visual, isn't it? Getting into it. Taking no delight in pillows made of cotton, soft to touch. You claim the human form emits no stench, befooled by lust, its filth you do not recognize. Lustful one, befuddled by desire, because you cannot copulate with it. You angrily find fault with cotton, soft though it may be to touch. And if you have no love of filth, how can you coddle on your lap a cage of bones tied fast with sinews, plastered over with the mud of flesh? So this is it, like we see what we want to see, like I said earlier, when you see what you believe or what you desire or what you want, so like this, like when you kind of lust somebody, fall in love with somebody, maybe you see all their good things only, it's like, oh yeah, everything's good. That's good. So you see that. And then like maybe then you get to know them. And then like they maybe behave in ways that you don't like. And then it's like, oh, I don't like them so much anymore. It's like that, isn't it? It's kind of like he's saying the same thing, but he's using death. He's using death and life. Well, like our body is in a way already dead. And that's what he's saying. All of those things that we don't like are there all the time. But yet we allow ourselves to be what's the word? Allow ourselves to be bedazzled. Allow ourselves to be like deluded by because like that feeling of desire. And that's really what he's talking about now. It's desire. And of course it can be for anything. And even it can be like desire for happiness as well. I think like it's an okay desire because like it can maybe lead you in the right direction. But you also have to know when to let it go as well. Any desire is not any desire is not going to the words were going, I don't think they're right. It's not going to end well. So I guess it's kind of true. Any desire is not going to end well unless you let it go. But usually you see we do kind of let it go. We let it go and then we pick it up again because we let it go when we think we have it. Like you desire something. And I heard this somewhere, I don't know who said it, but I think it's good. We desire something, and really the fulfillment of desire is because we let go of the desire. So, like I desire this book, let's say, I really want it, I want it. So then I get it. And then I'm able to let go of the desire then because I have it, but maybe this is not a great example because it's this book. But like then maybe when I have the book, then it doesn't actually fulfill me. But the fulfillment is it just in the receiving and the letting go of the desire, which we can let go anytime before anything, But usually then it will lead, like the thing itself won't lead to fulfillment. So then a new desire arises then. Then it's like, okay, maybe it was something else I needed actually, because this isn't fulfilling. So then a new desire comes. So it's like that, like, it's kind of like a wave, like desire, and then we let go of the desire. But then the thing itself doesn't fulfill, and the thing itself will never fulfill, and in a way, like the desire for happiness, like the desire, when the desire is there, like, of course, true happiness will fulfill, true happiness will, but you have to let go to really get that true happiness, that you have to let go of all desires. You don't get it through desiring. I remember hearing that once and it felt like so like, oh, because like you can't really let go of the desire if you have it. If it's a true desire, you have it, that you can't just say, okay, I'm going to drop it now. Somehow you're not able to do it. So, but I still think it's good to be exposed to that idea, like that the desire is not going to lead to it. And eventually maybe you have to really recognize that in your being, and then when the desire rises up, you'll let it go already very quick, because like 1,000 times before it hasn't led to happiness. So you just kind of let go of all desires. And then true happiness maybe starts to come in then. So you don't need to desire happiness because you've let go of desires for other things. And if you have no love of filth, how can you coddle on your lap a cage of bones tied fast with sinews, plastered over with the mud of flesh? In fact, you're full of filth yourself. You wallow in it constantly. It is indeed just filth that you desire, and therefore long for other sacks of it. So poetic. It's like usually poetic is like beauty, but it's also poetic to be it's just very impactful, because it's like, oh. But it's the skin and flesh I love to touch and look upon. Then why do you not wish for flesh alone, inanimate and in its natural state? The mind that you perhaps desire, you cannot hold or look upon. Whatever you can hold or see is not the mind. Why copulate with something it is not? To fail to grasp the unclean nature of another's flesh is not perhaps so strange, but not to see the filthy nature of oneself is very strange indeed. Why does the mind, intent on filthiness, neglect the fresh young lotus blossom, opened in the sunlight of a cloudless sky, to take joy rather in a sack of dirt? And since you're disinclined to touch a place or object grimed with excrement, why do you wish to touch the body whence such excrement has come? And if you have no craving for impurity, why will you now embrace and kiss what comes from such an unclean place, engendered likewise from an unclean seed? The tiny fetid worms that come from filth, you have no love of them, and yet you're lusting for a human form from filth arisen and replete with it. Toward your own impurity, disgust you do not feel, and yearning and a thirst for filth, you long for other sacks of it. Pleasant substances like camphor, rice, and fresh green herbs. Put them in your mouth and spit them out. The earth itself is fouled thereby. If still you doubt such filthiness, though it is very plain for all to see, go off into the charnel grounds, observe the fetid bodies there abandoned. When their skins are peeled away, you feel great horror and revulsion. Now that you have understood, how can you still take joy in such a thing? The scent that now perfumes the skin is sandalwood and nothing else. Yet how is it that one thing's fragrance causes you to long for something else? Is it not best to have no lust for something that by nature stinks? The worldly crave beside their purpose. Why do they anoint their flesh with pleasant scents? For if this scent is sandalwood, how can it be the perfume of the body? How is it that the fragrance of a thing induces you to crave for something else? With lanky hair, with long nails overgrown, with dirty teeth all reeking with the stink of slime, this body, naked as it is, untended, is indeed a horror to behold. Why go to such excess to clean and polish what is but a weapon that will injure you? The cares that people squander on themselves in ignorance convulse the universe with madness. When you saw the heaps of human bones, you felt revulsion in the charnel ground. And will you take delight in cities of the dead, frequented by such skeletons that live and move? What's more, possession of another's filth is not to be acquired free of charge. All is at a price, exhaustion of this life, and in the next, the suffering of hell. That is a possession of another's filth. It's just like, I think it means, like when we think we possess like somebody like our husband or our wife or our child or something. Like, that's what like we think we want. But like he's putting it so vulgar in such a vulgar way. It's like you can't help but agree with him. Like, oh yeah. Isn't it? It's like he's really putting forward a good story, or like whoever's listening to this, like we're not gonna want to have anything to do with our bodies after this. Or else we're probably gonna go and clean them up.
Straight to straight
Yeah,
to the shower.
yeah, yeah.
Or you're sitting in a restaurant and you pick something off the menu and it comes and you go, "Ooh, I didn't order that."
Yeah. I did that once. One time I ordered like prawns and it came and I had like it was all still in its shell and I had like big things and I had eyes and all. And I was like, oh no, I was disgusted. And I was like, it probably said it on the menu, but I didn't understand that it was gonna come like a because I like prawns when they're like out of the shell. And I was like, oh no, I couldn't eat that. It has eyes. And I gave it back. I was like totally horrified. It's just so silly because of course, like it's like we want it to be hidden. It's like I'll eat meat as long as it doesn't look like me, what it is, you know. So if we went to a restaurant and it's like you can have a fearful cow burger, you know, like would you want that? It's like the cow is probably like so scared, like he knows like a few other cows have just been killed in front of him. And like now he's gonna be killed, so like he's full of fear, like he knows what's coming. and then he gets killed and like turned into a burger. But it's like, no, we don't want a fearful cow or fearful cow on bread. It's like, no, 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 no. I don't want to know what it is. I just want it to be a succulent steak. I want it to be called a succulent steak. Steak doesn't sound anything like a cow. It's like, I'm succulent. Oh, yeah, yeah, it's gonna be good. Like, I want to forget all about the animal. It's like, this is just something else entirely. So I'm
I'll have
guilty of that.
I'll, I'll have the very angry pig instead.
Yeah. Oh, no. Oh, no. Yeah. Why go to such excess to clean and polish what is but a weapon that will injure you? The cares that people squander on themselves in ignorance convulse the universe with madness. When you saw the heaps of human bones, you felt revulsion in the charnel ground, and you will take delight in cities of the dead, frequented by such skeletons that live and move. Oh, I don't know where I am now. Reading it all again.
I want to take a couple of lines and just read them. You've
Sure.
already covered it and did repeat that verse, but the cares that people squander on themselves in ignorance convulse the universe with madness.
Mm-hmm.
There's a sticker for you.
That's really good. Yeah. So, would you like to read?
What's more, possession of another's filth is not to be acquired free of charge. All is at a price, exhaustion in this life, and in the next, the suffering, hell. To gather riches, young boys are unable, and what can they enjoy when they're full grown? The whole of life is spent in gaining wealth, but then they're old, too old to satisfy their lust. Some are wretched in their great desire, but worn out by their day-long work. They go home broken by fatigue, to sleep the slumbers of a corpse. Some, wearied by their travels far from home, must suffer separation from their wives and children, whom they love and long to see. They do not meet with them for years on end. Some, ambitious for prosperity, not knowing how to get it, sell themselves. Happiness eludes their grasp, and pointlessly they live and labor for their masters. Some sell themselves, no longer free in bondage, slavery to others, and, destitute, their wives give birth, with only trees for shelter in the wild. Fools deceived by craving for a livelihood decide that they will make their fortune in the wars, though feel fearful for their lives and seeking gain. It's slavery they get. Some, as the result of craving, have their bodies slashed, impaled on pointed stakes. Some are wounded, run through by the lance, while some are put to death by fire. The pain of gaining, keeping, and of losing all. See the endless hardships brought on us by property. For those distracted by their love of wealth, there is no chance for freedom from the sorrows of existence. They indeed, possessed by many wants, will suffer many troubles, all for very little. They're like the ox that pulls the cart and catches bits of grass along the way. For sake of such a paltry thing, which is not rare, which even beasts can find, tormented by their karma, they destroy the precious human life so hard to find. All that we desire is sure to perish, on which account we fall to hellish pain. For what amounts to very little, we must suffer constant and exhausting weariness. With but a millionth part of such vexation, enlightenment itself could be attained. Those who crave are plagued far more than those engaged upon the path. Yet Buddhahood is not what they attain. Reflect upon the pains of hell and other evil states, weapons, fires and poisons, yawning chasms, hostile foes. None is on a level with our cravings. So, revolted by our lust and wanting, let us now rejoice in solitude, in places empty of all conflict and defilement, the peace and stillness of the forest. So, this is why he's sort of really encouraged us in the previous verses of this chapter to withdraw, even
Mm-hmm.
like you're saying, for that 2 minutes.
Yeah, I think that's a good place to stop.
Okay.
And he spent a long time, like on the body, and it was like kind of the physical body, about how filthy it is and how dirty it is. But all desires, no matter what they are for the body, like so it might be like, it was like as if we're desiring a body, but it could be like we're desiring things for our own body, so it might be like you desire a nice new sofa, or you desire a certain kind of food, or you desire a holiday. It's all for your body, for your body, and your body mind is kind of one thing, your body mind. But now he's saying like no, just leave all of that and be happy. So I felt like it's a good ending. And then maybe the next time he'll go into the joy of leaving everything. Don't know, I haven't read it yet. Um,
Well,
yeah,
what's common is sort of relaxation of boundaries, if you will. Like
yeah, yeah.
I'm not just in here. That it doesn't fit
That's
to,
it exactly.
yeah, doesn't fit to define it that
Yeah.
way, define me that way.
Like even a very simple thing that you can do to just relax, like if you're not familiar with meditating, sometimes we're like hyper focused on something in our body, that causes us suffering. Like it could be like a mental thing, like you could be thinking about the past or something, but maybe it will have a physical counterpart. Like if you're thinking, maybe there's some stress here in the head, or maybe, there's just some physical feeling in the body, and we're focusing our attention, like hyper focused on like one thing, whatever it is. So what we can do is just to like start to bring our attention to more things, like so it's just like, okay, so I'm going to bring my attention, and you can start with like more of your body, so if your attention could be like hyper focused on like a pain in your back or something, or it could be hyper focused on thoughts, but even that, like, so you can start with your body and expand your where you're giving your attention to. So to include like your feet, your legs, your hands, you're expanding your attention. And then you can include other things then in your environment as well. And in a way, when you're expanding your attention, you're bringing it into your being, so you can just hear maybe the birds, or maybe it's traffic,
Mm,
whatever is in your environment. Maybe it's music, noise, or it could even be like the sound of silence. That's still a sound. It's not like true silence, or whatever. It could be the sound of the wind. So you're including that. And then you might also include like visual things that are kind of, first of all, in your near proximity. So maybe first your hands, then a little bit further, you might look around your room and just start to include all of that in your experience. And then further out, whatever's further out, like maybe what's outside your room. And then further out, like, is there something far away, like a tree or another building? Then maybe like if there's any birds in the sky or airplanes, then the sky, like the clouds, the color of the sky, stars, if it's my time. So in that way, you're not like hyper focused anymore, like, because it's really like the hyper focus that causes us a lot of stress and suffering. We get hyper focused on something that we don't have or something. hyper focused, or maybe something that we do have that we don't want, so just as a way of kind of relaxing. It could be like at the beginning of a meditation, like before we or that could be your meditation, at the beginning, to just like include more and more and more, open your awareness until it's like totally open, where it's not really focused on anything, but it's like allowing of everything. So in the beginning, you're focused on one thing, then you're focused on a few things. And like the more things you're focused on, the less you can really focus. Like how many things are in this room that I'm in? How many things are in the room that you're in? Like there's like 1,000 things in here. I have loads of books and loads of different things. So there's 1,000 things. So I can't to focus on one thing, like I have to look, but to like just allow, like open my awareness, then it's like I have a sense of everything. But it's not focused. And that allows it kind of something to relax. And then if you want, then you can rest in that relaxation, that kind of like it's a relaxation. You don't need to focus your attention anymore on one thing. But then you can, if focus happens again, it's not like you have to keep your attention like totally unfocused. You can keep that relaxation while also focus on your attention. They can both be there as well at the same, like simultaneously.
You're talking about bathing in the waters of Brahman.
Yeah. Oh no, I'm getting my texts mixed up.
No, 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 no.
No,
I
I'm only
just
joking.
wanted to make that analogy because it's
Yeah,
wow, that's something. That's something. The
yeah,
misuse of attention shows up
yeah.
as hyper focus.
And in a way, you could say it's leaving everything because you're not given, so when you're not leaving things, what are you doing? You're really with it. You're with it too much, like you're holding on to it, you're grasping on. So to leave it is to just like relax your attention. It might be still here, because we haven't got the power to make things go away and come and go. But we do have the power whether to give things our attention or not. So leaving things, so by going into the forest, it doesn't make the city disappear. The city and all its anxieties and all its problems and whatever was there is still there. So you're in the forest now where there's a nature and peace. Like, okay, like so all the things can still be there, but we don't have to give them our attention all the time. And eventually it'll just like hurt too much. Maybe we don't want to give our attention to it at all. Or maybe sometimes we do it and then it's like, oh no, what am I doing? What am I doing? Why am I even giving it for like 1 minute a day? It can get like that, but like we don't have to force it. Sometimes we hear that, maybe we're in the midst of anxiousness and like stress and giving our too much of our attention to things, and we hear that like just leave everything. It's possible to leave everything. So we want to be at the leave everything all together forever, all at once. But I feel like my like if we are able to do that, but like most people aren't. Like I think we can do it momentarily. We can all do it momentarily, but to do it all the time forever, it's not really that realistic for most of us. So I think we just be really gentle with ourselves, and we do what we can, and we can challenge ourselves to go a little bit further, a little bit further. And eventually like it will be that we don't want to give our attention to anything at all, but somehow we're not able to give it all up all at once. We are able, that's not the right words. We're able to do it, but we're usually just not willing to do it all at once. Because it's like imagine if you were in a I don't know, this is what's coming on, usually really bad analogies. But if you're in a place full of like lions, but someone told you, no, but they're like tame. They're not gonna bite you, like they're totally tame. They're not interested in people. We feed them all the time. But like still, you're not just gonna walk in there and start like dancing around because like your whole experience maybe of lions before is that like they're violent, they eat people, you know. But like now you're being told no, actually they don't eat people. These ones are totally safe. But like you're not just gonna like yeah, like go in and start petting them. You're gonna like take it bit by bit by bit until eventually you know it's safe. Or maybe it was a good analogy. So in a way, kind of life is like that. Like so we've been kind of really afraid and fearful. And we felt like we needed these crutches. We felt like we've needed to grasp onto things as a way to feel safe. And even though we're learning that they actually didn't make us feel safe at all, but our attempts to feel safe are still a habit. So we let go of them like gradually, 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 and also deepening in that they haven't even made us feel safe. So of
Mm,
course, if they actually made us feel safe, maybe we wouldn't let them go. But honestly, like when we really look, like none of that, there's nothing in this world that makes us feel safe and secure and happy and fulfilled. And there's nothing in this world that we truly, truly want. You know, what we truly, really want is just what we are already, not the false stuff that we've made up.
mm,
So we let go of that gradually. And I like that. I know I always bring it up, but in like A Course in Miracles, it says like all that's needed is just like a little willingness.
mm,
And I like that. It's just like a little willingness. It's like that like makes space for love or spirit or Buddha nature, your own Buddha nature. God, it makes space for that to be here in your life when we just have that little willingness. So it could be
mm,
that you're holding on really, really tight. Maybe you don't let go all at once. Maybe like, but you just become willing. So it's not so tight. You just like it loosens up a bit. So then there's space for God to flow around a little bit. Oh, and even with just a little bit, like you feel the like, oh, it feels so good. So and because it feels so good, our willingness grows, and our trust grows, our faith grows because we've had a taste of it. So again, it's not a blind faith, it's like our knowingness that it is safe to let go grows. Mm. I thought maybe I'll put a little music on for a moment again. Let's do the music first to make sure no ads going right. Yeah, there isn't it. Hold on. I know. It's coming now. Hold
okay.
on. our meeting today.
Thank you.
Yeah, and maybe we'll just take. We'll aim to take a few minutes every day to be in the forest, leaving absolutely everything and just being in our Buddha nature. So we can each decide how many minutes. It can be different every day, you know, we can be flexible, alive. But yeah, like I think it's nice to start the day for even just like a minute in bed before we get up, just recognizing our Buddha nature, being totally empty. And then maybe the day comes in on us, and maybe it's okay if we, pick up a few things. And then anytime we notice, we can just maybe expand our awareness a little bit to include more things as a way to relax. And anytime that we have the ability to leave everything totally, and it doesn't really mean that you need to go into a dark room and shut the door, but if we have that ability, that time, if we can take time to do that every day, it will definitely benefit us and allow the Buddha nature in. And I don't know if you'd like to say anything before we say goodbye.
I'm just so grateful to spend this time with you and look forward to the next one.
Yes, same here. Thank you so much. Mm.